Good morning. Thank you very much for all of you who are here. Welcome to Laura del Cafecito's sister program, um, Coffee Break with Card. Coffee Break with Card is a program dedicated to all those in our community who are living with autism, to their family members, and to all those who support them. My name is Lourdes Quiñones, and I would like to welcome you to the show. So come on in. Join us at the table, sign in on the comment section below, and let us know if you're drinking a cup of coffee with us. We'd love to say hello to you. In today's program, we will be talking about poison prevention and other considerations to keep our loved ones safe during Halloween. So join us. We have a lot to talk about. So let's start out by introducing to you our coffee break hostesses for today. As I mentioned before, my name is Lourdes Quiñones. I am a card consultant assigned to the primary age group through elementary ages. And professionally, I am a pediatric physical therapist as well as a special education teacher. I am joined by my colleagues, Jasmine Castellano. Buenos dias, Jasmine.
Buenos dias, good morning.
Olivia McDonald. Buenos dias, Olivia.
Buenos dias, hello everyone.
Maggie Aldana. Buenos dias, Maggie.
Buenos dias, Lourdes.
And Ima Camposano. Buenos dias, Ima.
Buenos dias. Hi, everyone.
Jasmine Castellano, who is an excellent professional in the field of mental health, is a CARD consultant assigned to the middle and high school age groups here in CARD, and is the mother of three, one of whom is diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Olivia McDonald is an excellent professional in the field of public health, is a CARD consultant assigned to the primary age group, just like me, and is the mother of a beautiful baby infant boy, and she has a younger brother diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Maggie Aldana is an excellent special education teacher. She is the chair of CARD's Constituency Board and is the mother of three children, two of whom are diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Ima Camposano is completing her master's in social work and has chosen to do her internship here at CARD, as she is committed to serving those living with autism in our community. Ima is a mother of two and has a physical disability, so she brings an important perspective to the program. Welcome, Ima.
Thank you.
But before we get started, we would like to review the rules by which we want to hear while we are in the air. So remember that we must keep an open mind, maintain a positive attitude, and use respectful language so we can ensure a safe environment for us all. Jasmine, could we say hello to our audience before we get started?
Yes, we have with us today, we got Anne, we got Rose, and we also have Pete.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. We'd love to have you comment below. Thank you so much. So like I mentioned earlier in today's program, we're going to be talking about poison prevention and other considerations to keep our loved ones safe during Halloween. So join us. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get started. Maybe we can share my PPT. There we go. You guys are on top of this.
So, Lourdes, what are some Halloween safety tips that are very important to remember?
Sure. There we go. So the first thing that we'd like to remind you of is to make sure that you choose a face paint and makeup that is non-toxic if you're choosing to use these items. Sometimes we can create allergies not knowingly, so be sure that you use those kinds of items that are non-toxic. Also, although we love to recommend the use of the fluorescent ones, because this keeps coming in and out, because it does help with illumination. It helps to, alert drivers that you are around, especially at night. We want to make sure that you remember to teach your loved one with autism not to chew on or break the fluorescent ones. Okay, so this could be something that could be prevented, but we have to teach it first, right? Also need to teach them never to touch or ingest the dry ice. And also, we need to inspect their items because sometimes whatever they receive that day through trick-or-treating, because sometimes they're small toys, the pencil erasers, the magnets and stuff like that are included in those gifts. that may present a choking hazard, right? So this might cause an obstruction to the throat, which we know can block the air passage and therefore the oxygenation of the body, right? So on slide 3, we obviously recommend inspecting all the treats before eating them, also washing them off because of germs. So you may want to wash them off, whether that's with an item that is antiseptic or so. And also we want to make sure that we remove the facial makeup or paint and all the hairspray before going to bed. So don't allow them to go to bed with those on. And also keep making sure to keep the treats away from pets who can get in trouble if they get them. And then if there's an accidental ingestion, be sure not to provoke vomiting.
Okay. Sorry, it is going to cut out as I need to open up a different window. So I'll try and keep it a minimum.
Okay.
You say that we should not induce vomiting in case our loved one ingests something that is poisonous or inedible. So what should we do then in that situation?
Well, the best thing that we can do is, first of all, be ready by having on us the telephone number for the Poison Control Center, because every case is individual, right? So we don't want to be giving out information that we don't know if it's going to be applicable to your situation. So the best thing to do is right now to go ahead and add that phone number to your the cell phone, because poisoning can happen at any moment. It doesn't have to be Halloween. It's just high during Halloween, but it can happen at any moment. So having that on your cell phone is very important. So it's the first thing that and the best thing that I can recommend, and that is recommended by the Center for Poison Control.
Are there any other considerations to keep in mind during the Halloween celebration?
Yes. We know, for example, there are loved ones with autism tend to be strict with their routines. So the change in routine associated with the celebration is obviously one of the considerations that we must keep in mind so that we can support our loved ones, right? We must also recognize that this holiday can be very difficult for our loved ones with autism who have sensory issues. And thirdly, we need to recognize and anticipate the dangers associated with this celebration so that we can be prepared and can minimize the dangers involved. Emma, you're muted.
Can you give us examples of how this holiday can impact the routine of our loved ones with autism?
Sure. So we know that in addition to impacting our afternoon or evening routines, if we do end up taking our loved ones trick-or-treating or somewhere else to celebrate the holiday of Halloween, we know that we are going to be disrupting their routine, their daily routine. And there are other changes, however, that are not so obvious to the naked eye, so to speak. So by what I mean by that is that in addition to changing their daily routine at home, we need to keep in mind that there are so many social rules that can be confusing for our loved ones with autism. Because namely, these rules are specific for the holiday, right? So, for example, Halloween also means changes to the routines of how they should behave and interact with others just for this particular holiday that we're talking about. So, for example, with trick-or-treating, look at how many steps they need to take. You look at that just to go get their candy. So trick-or-treating is such a mapped out activity that can be good for our children or loved ones with autism at some time once they learn the order. However, this also means that if there is an interruption of that routine or something a little different from what was expected occurs, they may get confused about how to react, and which may trigger them to become very overwhelmed. Also during Halloween, the behaviors that are not normally acceptable or appropriate are accepted and promoted. For example, scaring other people. So you can see how confusing and complicated Halloween can seem to a person with autism. And then we also know that many of our loved ones with autism have trouble with self-regulation. Therefore, if we can anticipate that, for example, if there's an unexpected change to the routine we told them was supposed to happen, such as someone not answering their door to give them a treat, that could cause a meltdown in the middle of the street. So this is why it's so important for us to consider this possibility and for us to prepare our loved ones with autism for such a situation. So they know how to react and what to do if something does happen or doesn't happen that is outside of what they were anticipating. So what are some of the steps that they could or should take to move on? Because after all, there's more houses, right? So let's prepare them. Let's teach them what could happen, not only what is expected to happen, but what other things might happen that are outside of that routine we're teaching them, and then prepare them. And that's that might entail social stories, practice, and all that stuff. But we'll be sharing some social stories, for example, some resources at the bottom for you to use or copy from so that you can personalize the story to your loved one.
Lourdes, you mentioned sensory issues. So how can this celebration disturb the senses of people with autism?
Sure. Next slide, please. Perfect. There it is. So as you can see in the images, this celebration tends to be a very sensorial celebration, right? There's lights. There's sounds that include screaming for those houses that kind of use that backdrop sounds. There's fog machines and sometimes the fabric of the costumes. In short, there's a number of sensory experiences that can be overwhelming for people with autism who have hypersensitivities in any of these areas, right? Any of these senses. So that's why we want to invite you to consider the various ways in which you can minimize sensory issues in your loved ones with autism. For example, be sure to pack headphones or that dark glasses in your backpack. I'm getting tongue twisted. In your backpack, if that's an area where your loved one with autism tends to have a reaction to. So remember that wearing dark glasses at night could increase the risk of fall. So we want to clarify that we're not suggesting to use dark glasses at night for people who will be walking on the street or in dark places, such as in scary houses, right? If you're walking, we don't even recommend that you hold on to them because if they trip, you could trip with them also. So we're suggesting it only for people who will be seated, whether that's in a chair because they're watching something going on, or they're in a push car because they're young kids that are in push cars, or maybe in a vehicle if you're just going down the road with just watching the display in the houses and stuff like that. But in terms of costumes, we also suggest that if you are going to buy or create a costume, allow your loved one to try the costume or the fabric before actually committing to the costume and buying it, because it may be that the costume is triggering some sensory if the response that is not really due because of the fact that they don't want to be disguising themselves. Maybe they do, maybe they would like to, but they just need something that they can blend in with their own system, right? With their own hypersensitivities. So give them options.
What are some of the security concerns you mentioned earlier?
Okay, so there are many safety risks that are that we as parents should be aware of before we go trick-or-treating. The biggest danger, for example, is cars. Last year, Olivia shared with us in an episode that we did, and also that she did in English. She shared with us that according to the federal safety data, children are 3 times more likely to be hit by a car on Halloween than on any other day of the year. And they also show that children between the ages of 4 and 8 were about 10 times more likely to die in Halloween night than any other day during the full night. So this is the data for children without reported disabilities. Right, Olivia?
Yeah, this was for the general population. And a lot of that concern also is it's because of the time of that families are going out for trick-or-treating. It's oftentimes luckily this year it's on a Sunday, but it's oftentimes associated also with rush hour time.
Oh.
So so hopefully it'll be a little bit better this year, but there's still that issue of, right as it's getting dark and people having issues with visibility. So it's important to be careful.
Yes. So some of those things that the luminaries and, the fluorescent bands and necklaces, wearing those stuff. But most importantly, we need to be aware of what's happening, right? Hypervigilant. So understanding that many of our loved ones with autism do not have the malice to anticipate danger. And even if they do, they may be distracted from the danger by hyper-focusing on something that captivates their attention, such as a subject of interest area, right? So maybe it is somebody's wearing a costume of their favorite area of interest, right? So they could be easily distracted that much. So that's why we need to be hyper vigilant and ready, anticipate what could happen, and be on top of that and not get sidetracked ourselves. Next. Yeah. So we also have to realize that there's a lot of things that we could stumble up. For example, this mask right here is limiting my visibility below my eyes. So, and when we're looking around what's happening all of that, we might not be aware what's on the floor, such as, decorations or even architectural barriers could pose a trip and fall kind of a dangerous situation for us. And we know we can break bones, our skull, and even teeth, right? So being aware of that, also wearing long outfits, if it's a custom, they could trip on those customs. So make sure that you anticipate those things, shorten those customs if they're, if they're wearing a custom or something like that. And also hold their hand if they need to be, if you're walking around, just to make sure that you are sort of scanning the area for them and keeping our loved ones safe. And also we talked about the danger of ingesting candy that may be altered, or that it could get lodged in their throat. So all of those things pose threats to safety. There's a lot of things that we need to do in order to anticipate and be prepared to keep our loved ones safe.
Do you have any other security suggestions you want to share with us?
Yes. So although I don't want to get too much into this topic because, like I said, Olivia brought us a lot of information like last year, both in English and Spanish, and we're going to be giving you links to those resources at the bottom of this. But I wanted to remind you that it is not recommended that you use costumes that decrease visibility, such as this one. Anyway, whether that's a mask or like the costume that you see here that is just going over their head and all that stuff. And also, we want to make sure that we remind you that whenever possible, if you can incorporate the surgical mask that we're using to protect from COVID-19 right now, try to incorporate it in their outfit. So in this case, this pirate, they colored in the mask to make it look like he has a mustache and a beard. So that was a very great idea on how to incorporate the mask in that. Also, it is not recommended that you wear a costume mask on top of the surgical mask, right? Because we don't know if that is going to be cutting off the airflow for them. And also, we want to make sure that that we are either using, just the mask, the surgical mask. It's the safest thing that we can do. Okay. So, and finally, don't forget to include the hand sanitizers in your bag or your pet purse, and promote frequent hand washing. We know that those candies are being handled by someone, and we don't know if they're maybe infected with whether it's the flu or COVID or whatever. So we want to make sure that we use frequent hand washing, and then we clean those candies and objects when we get home. And so we're going to be sharing in the next page some resources that include the CDC page and the video of the episode that we did last year, or that Olivia did last year in English about safety, COVID-19 kind of safety during this event. So anyway, I'll take this off. So for those of you who are watching, do you have any questions, any comments? Let us know in the comments below. And even if you're watching after we get off the air, we make sure to monitor those comments. We can stop sharing. Anyway, so let us know, and we'll be sure to answer your questions and all that stuff. And Jasmine, are there any comments, questions right now, or someone we need to say hi to?
No, we don't have any comments, but we would like to say hi to Filomena that is watching us this morning.
Good morning.
And to, I'm sorry?
No, good morning to Filomena.
And to Shanik Vera, who is watching us this morning as well.
Good morning, Shanik. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Well, before we leave, also, we wanted to give special thanks to Denise Barnes and Olivia McDonald. Thank you, Olivia. They're the ones who did a lot of this research and found this information, and that they made available to me so that I could share it with you. So thank you. Appreciate it. And also, I wanted to let you know that in our next episode of Coffee Break with Card, we're going to be interviewing a father of a young autistic person who is going to come share his perspective as a father. And he's also the organizer of a support group for dads in our area, as well as in the Orlando area. So we are going to be sharing with you his information and his perspective, which is an important perspective that we don't often get to hear about. It is the dad's perspective, right? So be sure to join us and be here next week so that you can learn a lot about this dad group that may serve your family very well, okay? So finally, before we go, I want to ask you for a little favor, and that is that we want to ask you to please go on the link that we are going to be posting after we get off the air, and it's a way that you can let us know how we're doing. If this information is important information for you and your family, and it's the way that we can justify the time that it takes us to be in the air with you. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for going ahead and filling that out. Even if you've done it before, it takes less than a minute. We really appreciate it. So thank you. And that brings us to the end of the show. But we didn't want to leave without first, asking you to please give us a like, share this video on your page with those that you think can benefit from this information, and be sure to join us here every Friday at 10:45 a.m. because we come on the air right after La Hora del Cafecito. So we want to be able to share a cup of coffee with you, and also as we spill the beans on important topics related to autism. So until then, we want to wish you goodbye.
Bye. Coffee.
Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.